Hi everyone, welcome to Blue Heron Hill. I'm Sue and I'm in my kitchen today. Welcome. I'm glad you've come and joined me, and we are going to be talking about beans again. In my last video I talked about my love for beans and thus having 5 different varieties. Go back and watch that video on the 5 different varieties that I've chosen to grow in my garden this year. But having 5 different varieties means I have a lot of green beans and I need to process them in some way in order to preserve the harvest. I can't eat all of these fresh. I wish I could because I love them that way. That is my favorite way. But there are different ways that you can preserve the bounty that you go and you pick in your garden. These were picked, all of these were picked just this morning, and I can't eat them all, so I need to preserve them. Number one way is by freezing. And I've done many packets of green beans over the years and frozen in my freezer and brought them out throughout the winter time and the spring, and they've usually lasted me until my new crop comes along in the summer. But the trouble with the green beans when they're frozen is they become a little limp and wimpy. They still taste good and they look beautiful. They still have that vibrant green color, but they're a little on the wimpy side, which is okay because I love my green beans. Another way would be to dehydrate them. Now, I've never dehydrated beans, and if you have, let me know down in the description if you've ever done that. I do let some beans, like these are Trail of Tears, I let them go until they're dried, all dried out, and I harvest the seed inside as a black bean and I cook them that way. But I did pick some to eat fresh and to preserve. Another way would be to freeze dry them. I don't have a freeze dryer, nor do I expect to get a freeze dryer. They're a little on the pricey side. If you have a large family, I think it may be well worth it to use it for different forms of preservation of your harvest. But for me, I think that's out of the question, at least right now. Another way would be to pickle your beans, which is a form of fermentation. I've done dilly beans in the past. Love them. They're very good. I do love the dill, but as you can see over here, I picked more cucumbers. I like making pickles. Making my cucumbers into dill pickles. I still do make dilly beans and we still do eat them, but not as much as dill pickles. So the last way would be to can them. And I have a jar here, and this is a jar of canned that I did, I think a couple years ago. Now the trouble I have with canned beans is their color. This color is so washed out. Now the bean itself is nice and firm. It still is just as nutritious as you know, your fresh beans here. But I do have a little bit of problem with the color. I guess it's just me. But I found a new way to preserve the color. And that's this. You can tell the difference right there. This one has a special ingredient in it that helps preserve that beautiful green color. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So there's a simple additive that's going to help those green beans retain their color. When you add zinc to each one of these jars, it helps that chlorophyll, which is the green color in the bean, it helps it retain it in that bean and not wash out. And another benefit is that these beans taste exactly like these beans. It doesn't do anything to the taste. It doesn't do anything to nutritional value either. So just a simple additive of zinc, which you can find in any pharmacy, drugstore, big box store that carries supplements. Very easy. This one is, they usually sell them in 50 milligrams, and that's exactly what we need to use. So let's get started. So first of all, I'm going to start gathering my supplies. I have my jars that are have been sterilized, not sterilized, I'll say sanitized, because they've been washed in hot sulfate water, or they've been washed in the dishwasher, and they are actually, they're just sitting on my counter in some very hot water in preparation for the canning process. Now, the canning process, so I have my rings and my lids all ready to go. The lids are kind of steeping in some hot water. I pour some near boiling water on top, and I just let it sit for a little while. But in the interim, I am going to start by washing my beans. So what I do is I put my beans in some water, like this. Okay. And I always put like a cap full of vinegar into this big bowl. That helps clean those beans off. They've been, some of the bush bean varieties have been sitting very close to the ground, and they get splashed on when it rains. The pole beans, not so much, but we're just going to include everything in a nice little wash. So these are all the ones I'm going to can. I'm going to sort of do a little experiment. And I'll have these Trail of Tears beans in one jar. I will have some dragon tongue beans in another jar. And then my purple Okay, I'm going to start canning up some of these. I've rinsed my beans, and I snapped them up into sizes that are going to fit into the jar. At least I hope. I try and lay them down a little bit so they kind of stack up like little logs in there. I got 4 jars. I have more beans that I probably could process, but for the sake of this video, I'll keep it a little bit shorter. I always put in a 1/4 teaspoon of salt into each pint jar. Go up to maybe a 1/2 teaspoon if you're using quarts. Now this is where you then, these are just, they come in just little tablets like this, 1 in every pint jar, like that. Okay, these are filled to 1 inch headspace. Important step, debubbling, especially with all of these beans here. They can hide an air bubble down deep, and that will mess up your canning process. Another tip, always use something that is plastic or wooden. Never a metal, because the metal can scratch your jars and maybe eventually lead to a crack in your canning jar. Important to clean the outer rim of every jar. You never know, a little bit of a speck from the bean, or maybe even salt might get on it. Rings on, fingertip tight. The rings are only here to keep the lid in place. They're not to keep the lid down tight on your canning jar. The water in my pressure canner is hot. It should meet the same temperature as what is in your jar. Too cold either way will create a temperature imbalance and may crack your jars. I will bring you back when this is ready, and we'll see how the color has stayed the same on those different jars. So I'll be back in just a YouTube minute. Okay, let me just run over what I did. With your pressure canning, after your jars go in and you turn it on, you wait for a steady stream of steam to come out for 10 minutes. And then you put your pressure gauge on top and let the pressure build to the pressure of your altitude. After that, then you time it for your 20 minutes for pint jars. So it did that. It's come all the way down to zero pressure. The safety valve is down. I can safely take off the pressure gauge here. I'll just open it away from you because it's still very hot in there. And I'm going to let it sit like this for about 10 minutes so the internal temperature will come down a little bit and there won't be such a thermal shock with the internal air and the external air. I'll be back when I'm ready to take them out. Look at beautiful green. Let me take you down close. There you go. Look at that beautiful, beautiful color green. There we go. And there's one green one in here. And this one over here, this is the yellow and the green. Very pretty. Now this is one of the ones from before without the zinc. Look at the contrast there. I am just blown away by the beauty of this one right here. So what do you think? A little zinc supplement makes this a gorgeous preserved jar of beans. Just as good, just as tasty, just as nutritious, but without the zinc. And since I'm such a visual person, this is so good in my book. I will be preserving most of my beans this way this summer. So thanks for joining me on this tip on Tuesday. And so stay tuned next Tuesday for another tip. I'll probably have another video released at the end of this week. Click that notification bell, and YouTube is going to notify you whenever I post a new video. If you haven't subscribed already, please do, and give me a thumbs up and pass this on to any friends that may enjoy this, any of those new canners that are trying to preserve the bounty of their harvest this summer. So until the next time that we can go digging in the dirt or cooking in the kitchen. Bye.